All right. Today's topic is phrases and clauses, or phrase and clause. So, first of all, phrase and clause. When we listen these two terms, phrase and clause, then a term comes in our mind, or should come in our mind, that they are somehow linked with the parts of speech, or they occupy some of the parts of speech in it. Definition. First of all, what are actually the phrase and clause? Phrase and clause are the parts of a sentence, and they could be the part of the sentence. Phrase. A phrase is a group of words that does not consist of a subject and a verb. What does it mean? Means a phrase is not a combination of the words which can contain both a subject and a verb at the same time. That is why it can't be a sentence. It cannot stand alone. It cannot give the whole meaning to the combination of the words. For example, my best friend. My best friend actually has a personal pronoun and the noun best friend. So it does not have a verb here. So it would be called as a phrase. And it cannot stand as a lone sentence, meaning it cannot give the proper meaning of a sentence. For example, on a table, it can give the additional meaning to the sentence, but it cannot stand. We cannot say on a table. So everybody would ask me or the speaker that what does it mean on a table or my best friend. Similarly, near the wall, what actually is near the wall is necessary information. It is one of the additional information we give to a sentence. Now come to a clause. A clause is a group of words that consist of a subject and a verb. Means clause must have the both things at the same time, a subject as well as a verb. That is why it can be a sentence. It can stand alone. It can give a particular meaning or the whole meaning to the addressee. Let's suppose he ate. He ate, obviously, and we can also say that he sings very well. He sings. Cat drinks milk, or cat drinks. These are all the clauses. The guest arrived. We can also give the additional information in the sentence, but in short, they can stand alone as well. Okay, phrase or clause. Here are a few examples. Here, the falcon soared majestically. And now, if we analyze this these combination of the words, what actually we get? The falcon soared majestically. The falcon is a noun. Soared is a verb. Majestically is an adverb, means how he soared. So it is a complete sentence. If we actually remove majestically, the falcon soared is itself the meaningful identity, means meaningful combination of the words. So it could be called as a clause, not a phrase. All right. Another thing, the best ham sandwiches in Oklahoma. Mean the best ham sandwiches in Oklahoma. What does it mean? The best ham sandwiches is a noun in Oklahoma place. It is actually telling the modifying the noun, but it does not have any verb here. If the sentence would be like the best ham sandwiches in Oklahoma are very delicious. So it could be a sentence. Now here it is not a sentence, it is a phrase. Under the ocean blue. Under the ocean blue, it does not have any verb here. That is that is mean it is a clause. It is not a clause actually, but it is a phrase. It is actually giving additional information. It can be used in a sentence to give the additional information to a certain to a certain information. All right. Besides the phrases, let's suppose if we say that over the window, over the bridge, under the table, and the beautiful girl, or English lessons, these are the phrases, the combination of the words. What is the actual difference between a phrase and a simple noun or simple part of a speech is phrase is always the combination of the words. We cannot say the computer as a phrase. But if I say that the black computer, now it is a phrase, a noun phrase. Similarly, if we are saying jumps, if I say that jumps is only a single word, it couldn't be called as a phrase. But if we are saying that will be jumping, now it's a combination of the words which actually tell us a verb form. So now it could be called as a phrase. They are on the very same basis. We do have different phrases, types of different phrases. Phrases can take many forms and different constructions. They cannot, however, ever function as a sentence on their own. They do have different forms, and different construction means different way to give the information. But but on a whole, we always be on this line, on this thing, that phrase cannot stand alone. They cannot become a whole sentence. The different types of phrases include the following: noun phrases, prepositional phrases, and the verb phrases. All right. Moving ahead, what are actually the noun phrases? A phrase that acts like a noun in the sentence means if we, substitute it with a single noun, the sentence construction won't change its meaning. ऐसा नहीं है कि अगर हमने उस पूरे कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ वर्ड्स को सब्स्टिट्यूट कर दिया सिंगल नाउन से तो मीनिंग ही चेंज हो गए. नो. However, why we use the phrases? We use the phrases to give the additional information within a sentence. Let's suppose a phrase that acts like a noun in the sentence. It contains a noun and other associated words, usually determiners and modifiers, I mean, which modifies the noun. Let's suppose there's example given here. They hired a huge, beautiful home. If I say that they hired a home, the sentence remain very clear. But in some ways we are actually giving the additional information to a sentence, that they don't actually buy hired a house, but the house is beautiful and a huge as well. Similarly, another example is, so the noun phrase actually in the very first sentence is a huge beautiful home. Beautiful actually modifies the noun. Huge also modifies the noun. A is also telling us that they actually hired us a home or one home. Another example which is given here is, she bought a decent black skirt. She bought a decent black skirt. A decent black skirt. If I say that she bought an skirt, oh sorry, a skirt, so the sentence remains same, meaningful. But if I'm giving the additional information about skirt, then it would be called as a noun phrase. A decent black. Decent is also the skirt, black is also the skirt, and a is also modifying skirt. So this combination of the words are known as a noun phrase. A woman in the window shouted for help. A woman in the window shouted for the help. Up now, a woman. Women in the window. If I say that a woman shouted for help, no, a woman which in the window means the additional information giving about women is that she is there in the window. In the window is not telling us something else. However, it is telling us the position of what? The noun. So that is why it is the noun phrase. Okay, another one is prepositional phrase. A preposition phrase comprising a preposition and object of preposition, noun or pronoun, means it is telling us the position of what the object. And when we talk about, it actually has some kind of, object could be a noun or pronoun. So if the position is telling through a phrase, it is called as prepositional phrase. It may contains other modifiers as well other than the preposition, like if, sorry, on, at, off, इसके अलावा भी कुछ words हो सकते हैं. The phrase would be called as the prepositional phrase. The kids were laughing at the joker. So actually, the kids were laughing. The sentence is complete here, but at the joker means on what the kids were laughing. It is giving the additional information, but this additional information is started with a preposition. That is why it is called prepositional phrase. All right. The another example is he always speaks in a loud voice. He always speaks loudly. We could have say this that he always speaks loudly, but instead of saying this, we are saying he always speaks in a loud voice. So this preposition, this phrase is starting with the preposition in. That is why it is called prepositional phrase. Okay. The teacher looked at the blackboard. Where he is looking, where the teacher is looking, at the blackboard. At the blackboard is showing some position. That is why it is called as prepositional phrase. At the blackboard. Okay, now the verb phrase. A verb phrase is the group of main verb and helping verb auxiliaries in a sentence. She is writing a letter. If the sentence is like she writes a letter, the writes is a single word, so it wouldn't be called as a phrase. But we are actually modifying it by adding some auxiliaries to help the listener to get the idea that on what time the action was actually taken. She is writing, so it means that it's an ongoing action in the present time. They can meet you at their place. They can meet you. Can is actually telling us the possibility. And it actually is, this word is actually helping the main verb to better understand about how the action would take place. We have been playing games since morning. Actually, the main verb here is play, but we are taking the help of auxiliaries or the helping verbs here to denote that it the action was in continuation for some time in the present. We have been playing. Now the play does not, that means we cannot take the play only to tell the meaning of the sentence, but we are taking the help of some auxiliaries. That is why it becomes the combination of the words, and the combination of the words which are itself meaningful, they would be termed as phrase. We have been playing, so have been playing is the verb phrase. Okay, the adjective phrase, we can merge this adjective phrase with that of the noun phrase as well, because some people actually focus on the only three types of phrases. They are, verbal phrase and noun phrase and prepositional phrase. Adjective or adjectival phrases or the adverbial phrases are somehow merged with the other three. Okay, adjective phrase, a phrase that acts as an adjective in a sentence, means let's suppose the combination of words are there, but the meaning of those combination of the words denotes some quality, and actually they are qualifying a noun as a whole, so they are actually called as adjectival phrases. It modifies noun or noun because they are adjectives. They are more like adjectives. So more, the definition of the adjective is itself that they are used to modify the noun and pronoun. And when we talk about phrase, so it comes the combination of words specifically. A kid on the roof is flying a kite. Now, if we focused on the roof, on the roof is actually modifying a noun here. That is why I told you that it is somehow merged with the noun phrase and the propositional phrase as well. But when we focus on the roof, it is actually not telling us how the flying is done, how the kite is, but it actually tells us about a kid. A kid is actually a noun on the roof. It is actually modifying a kid. A kid is not on, home, or on the in the school or at the market, but he is actually on the roof. It is modifying, it is telling us some information about the kid. All right, another example is the lady with long hair was walking on the street. With long hair is actually quality of the lady, and the lady is what? A noun. So it is the adjective phrase. with long hair. She gave me a cup full of tea. We can also say that she gave me a teacup, or she gave me a tea, or she gave me a cup. Now, the full of tea means full of tea qualifies a cup, means not exactly a cup half of tea, not a cup which was empty, but it was full of tea. So that is why we are saying that it is modifying a cup, a noun, so it would be called as adjective phrase. All right. Let's move on. Adverb phrase. What are the adverb phrase? A phrase that acts like an adverb. What actually the adverb is? Adverbs which modifies a verb and adjective and adverb as well. But here the adverbial phrase are most often used in to modify verb, because when we talk about the adverbs which modifies adverb, so we do have single verbs, sorry, words like very, extremely. These kinds of words are used to modify adverbs, so they are not called as the phrases because we use single words. But for modifying a verb, we can use adverbial phrases. He drives a car in a very high speed. He drives a car in a very high speed. Now, in a very high speed modifies how he actually drives. It is telling us, though, it is actually qualifying how the action is done. Drives, how actually he drives. So he drives in a very high speed. In a very high speed is an adverb, means adverbial phrase. We cannot say an adverb because it is not a single word. The adverb means how the action is going on, is telling through a combination of the word. That is why we are telling it, or we are assuming it as the phrase. The racer was running very fast. A very fast, it means very fast. We can also say that fastly. Instead of saying this, we are saying very fast. Very fast means that the action, how the racer was running, it is telling us, it is notifying us about the verb. So it is called as adverbial phrase. But if it was like the racer was running fast, it wouldn't be called as a phrase because fast is only a single word. The kid sat beside her mother. The kid sat beside, where he was sitting? Beside her mother. A beside her mother is a verb phrase, right? The kid sat beside her mother, where the kid was sitting. The It is telling us the about the verb. It is giving additional information about the verb. She welcomed the guest in a nice way. So, how actually did she welcome the guest? In a very nice way. In a nice way is the additional information about welcoming. Welcoming is a verb, so it would be called as adverb phrase. All right. There are some examples of noun phrase: a red box, a jewelry box, a treasure box. These are actually telling the quality of the noun. They could be called as the adjective phrase as well, but here we are telling, means if the focus is on the noun, not actually the quality, then it would be called as the noun phrase. Okay, a verb phrase: will go, will be going, and is going, are going, have been going. They could be called as the verb phrase. Adjective phrase: they are actually modifying adjective. Here the example is given not in a way to have to give the quality of a noun, but they are modifying the adverb as well. Big is itself an adjective, and quite big means, or very big means. These are the actually the words which are modifying adjectives. So they are called as adjective phrase. Adverb phrase, yes, very slowly, similarly, extremely slowly. These are the adverb phrase. Okay, prepositional phrase: in the car, over the tree, or under the table. These are the prepositional phrases. Okay, and other examples are given here. Noun phrase: the tiny mouse. It is telling us the quality, it is modifying the telling the quality of the or noun. noun. Verb phrase was reading, adjective phrase very tall. The tall is actually the word adjective, and but the word which is modifying adjective is very. Adverb phrase only occasionally means we can say that most oftenly, or means if I say that I don't take classes. I only take classes occasionally. Now, occasionally is an adverb, means how actually I take classes. Prepositional phrase on the table, these are the very same. All right, now come to the clauses. What are actually the clauses? Clauses are actually somehow difficult things, and they are more, they are more to focus on, because on the basis of the clauses we compose different sentences, and it is necessary to have the grip over the clauses and how we should use within the sentence. Phrases are the very easy way to use in the sentences and while making the sentences, because the additional information is there in your mind, and you can easily add these types of prepositional phrases in your sentences. The the difficult thing in using phrases is to place them accurately in the sentence, means in the table where should we put it, in the middle of the sentence or the end of the sentence or in the beginning. So it's a bit tricky thing to use to place phrases in the sentences. But when you talk about clauses, so clauses, the construction of the clauses is also very important, a bit difficult as well. And how to merge different clauses in a sentence, means a sentence may occupy multiple clauses, and how we can compose such type of sentences which do have different clauses at the same time. Okay, what a clause consists of a subject and a verb and is the smallest grammatical unit that expresses a thought. Clause means always meaningful. Somehow sometime means when you talk about or we can say that not always, but it always has a verb and a subject. We cannot we cannot name the combination of the words as clause if it does not have either a verb or a subject. So it is a necessity for a clause to have both at a time. A clause consists of a subject and a verb and is the smallest grammatical. What does it mean? Is the smallest grammatical unit that expresses a thought, means only minimum. Obviously, if we use a word like table tennis, or we are using a single word like chair, or laptop, or a speaker, or curtain, or door, they are not meaningful, means they are not actually conveying a complete thought to the addressee. But if I say that I sing very well, or you can say that I drink a lot, or I work in evening. These are the sentences which I may call as a complete sentence because they are giving the complete thought. Similarly, clause can occupy only two words at a time, a subject and a verb, because the two words are the most important words which can be used to convey the whole meaning, or you can say that the complete thought. Subject plus verb is equals to complete thought. Here in bracket, the two alphabets are written IC means independent clause. Independent clause means which can stand alone. I would elaborate it in the next slides, but the meaning is, the example is I eat. I eat. Simple. I could also say that I ate. I have already eaten. The subject is here and the verb is here. So it is giving me the complete thought. Sharon speaks. Complete thought. It's a complete thought. So it is called as a clause. Why it is not? We are not naming it as the phrase because it has both the subject and the verb. If the combination of the words has both the subject and the clause, it would call as the clause, not the phrase. Okay. Similarly, as similar to the phrases, the clauses are also having some types. And what are they? Independent and dependent. First of all, we focus on independent. That was written there in the backslide. I see independent clause. What is actually the independent clause? An independent clause can stand alone in a sentence, or you can say that can stand alone as a sentence. It contains one subject and one verb in its smallest form. Means additional info can, or you can say that not necessarily it must have multiple information in that, but it could have. A clause may also include modifiers, just like written here. Modifiers means, additional information. And a verb predicate means, phrases and clauses, subject and verb के बाद जो हमारे पास details होती है, that is called predicate. It is a complete thought and the smallest unit of grammar that is syntactically accurate, means structurally and meaningfully. And when you talk about, is meaning, it is complete. Example of independent clauses: subject plus verb, or you can say that predicate means verb along with additional information, and that must convey complete thought. I eat banana. Complete thought. I eat banana means uh, what I am eating, I eat. I could also say that I eat, but I am giving additional information here. So it could also be called as the clauses. Sharon speaks loudly. How does the Sharon speaks? I'm giving additional information here. However, if I say that Sharon speaks, it is also the complete thought and it is independent clause. All right. What is the other type? A dependent clause. What is that? A dependent clause contains a subject and a verb. Clauses, we have, done with this thing that a clause must contain at least a subject and at least a verb. However, they cannot stand alone as an independent thought. Means we cannot convey the independent clause, we cannot use actually the independent clause to convey the proper or the full meaning. Let's suppose they must be joined with an independent clause to be grammatically correct. Means we need some help. We want some other information to be there in the sentence to convey the proper meaning. For example, every night before I go to bed. Let's suppose if I remove I eat bananas, I would say every night before I go to bed. If I use only this clause, every night before, I is a subject, go is a verb. But I have written before, and this before actually makes the clause in a dependent clause because it needs some additional information to complete the meaning. Every night before I go to bed, I eat bananas. Let's suppose John ran to first base after after he hits the hit the ball. John ran to first base after he hit the ball. Here the dependent clause is after the independent clause. After he hit the ball, what actually he did? John ran to first base after he hit the ball. If I use he hit the ball, the sentence remain complete. But when I'm adding the linking verbs here after, it makes the independent clause dependent clause. It changes the independent clause to a dependent clause. The two main types of clauses are independent and dependent, right? This is actually the basic types of clauses. In addition, the following types of clauses are also used in constructing sentences, and they are a bit difficult. Dependent and independent are very easy. I'm just giving you some other information to clarify what makes an independent clause a dependent. Let's suppose if I say that I I go to market. Let's suppose if I say that I go to market is a complete thought. But if I'm adding a linking verb here, whenever I go to market, what actually happens next? I need an independent clause to complete this meaning. Let's suppose if I say that when before I talk to my students, now full stop. No, it is not the complete sentence. Before I talk to students, comma, I usually take attendance. This is actually how we construct the sentences. So an independent or dependent clause cannot stand alone and needs some other information to complete the meaning. Okay, the other types of the clauses are defining and non-defining. They are also called adjective and relative clauses, and the noun clauses, adverbial clauses. These are actually the main three types, and now we are going to elaborate it. Noun clause. A noun clause is a type of dependent clause that acts as a noun in the sentence. हमने पहले जो बात की थी phrase में, वो भी हमने कहा था कि phrase can be a noun phrase because it gives the additional information about noun. But here, what is the difference between a noun phrase and a noun clause? Is that a noun clause also has some a verb, at least a verb and a subject. That on that basis we are classifying it as a clause. अगर उसके अंदर verb या फिर subject नहीं होगा तो we would call it as a phrase, not a clause. A noun clause will always contain a subject and a verb. That actually I explained. However, it cannot stand alone as a complete thought because it is giving some information about a noun which is there in the sentence. Example of noun clauses: I remember what you said yesterday. Actually, I remember. I remember. This is actually what I did. This is a complete thought. What you said yesterday is something which I am classifying as a noun, but it has you and said. यानी कि subject भी है और verb भी है. That is why I am classifying it as a noun clause, not a noun phrase. I remember is a is a complete sentence. But what actually I remember is a noun. I remember let's suppose if I say that I remember a letter. And now the letter is I have changed the word letter as what you said yesterday. What you said yesterday occupies a subject as well as a noun. That is why I'm saying it as a noun clause. Did you think what she wore was so chic? Did you think what she wore was so chic? Did you think is a complete thought. What she wore was so chic is actually the noun for, sorry, noun clause, because it is giving about the about what actually the person is thinking, and it is actually qualifying, it is giving additional information about the noun. Whomever you confine is whomever you confine in is a person you can trust. Is a person you can trust. Whomever you confine is means so and so person is a person you can trust. Or you can say that people or truthful people are those whom you can trust. So अब truthful person को हमने change कर दिया whomever you confined in. Whomever you confined is the quality of the noun. It is expressing such type of person which can be trusted on. So who actually can be trusted on. So this type of things which is giving the additional information on, which is elaborating a noun in a sentence by using a subject and a verb, would be called as noun clause. All right. Now another thing, that is adjective clause. Adjective clause, relative clause. Adjective clause. An adjective clause is a type of dependent clause that acts as an adjective in a sentence. Means they are, they take the place of the adjective in a sentence, but they do have subject and a verb. However, it cannot stand alone as a complete thought because it is type of dependent clause. Adjective, noun, and adjective, noun, and adverbial clauses. But all the three are the actually type of dependent clauses. An adjective clause will always begin with one of the following words. that, where, who, whom, and which. Just say, let's suppose if I'm saying that it is the book that I asked you. It is the book. We are actually using that I asked you. This that I ask you means I am that I ask you means it is telling the quality, qualifying the noun. It is telling the information about the noun. Relative adverbs list means these are the when, where, why. Let's suppose if I say that I want to go there when it rains, or when it will rain. So I'm just telling the quality of that place, that when it rains. Okay. Adjective clause की जो example है, the boy who you saw at the store committed a robbery. Up now, actually, the sentence is like the boy committed a robbery. This is actually the whole sentence, but I am actually modifying the boy by giving the information who you saw at the store. Similarly, I want to return that book which I asked you yesterday. Which I asked you yesterday, I am actually qualifying the book. The store that the boy robbed is on the corner. Up, actually, the information is like the store the store robbed is on the corner. That the boy robbed actually telling us the additional information about store. So the store is on the corner, but what is actually the store? I am giving the additional information about store, that the specific store is robbed by the boy. The corner of the street where my family lives is surrounded by investigators. The corner of the street where my family lives, up the corner of the street is surrounded by investigators. It is actually the whole sentence, but I am giving additional information about the street where my family lives. Why I am telling it as a clause? Because it has a subject, my family, and it is also having a verb here, lives. Okay, adverbial phrase. An adverbial phrase, clause. Adverbial clause is the type of a dependent clause that acts as an adverb in the sentence. An adverbial clause will always contain a subject and a noun and a verb. Similarly, as the prepositional and the verbal phrases called clauses. However, it cannot stand alone because it is one of the type of dependent clause. You will continue driving north until you see a stop sign. Up until you see a stop sign is the information which is actually giving the information about driving. Driving. You have to drive until you see a stop sign. Until you see a stop sign is giving the information about driving. Similarly, after the movie ended, we ate ice cream. Actually, what we did, we ate ice cream. But when it is giving the information about how actually when we actually ate after the movie ended. After the movie ended is the adverbial phrase. Why we are saying clause? Why we are saying is a clause? Because the movie is a word. Noun here, and the ended is a verb here. Beth visits her grandfather whenever she is in the town. Beth visits her grandfather whenever she is in town means Beth visits her grandfather. Whenever she is in town is additional information when actually Beth visit.